Sam Marsden is joining us once again. Of course, we are focusing on La Liga, especially Barcelona. Sam, Lautaro Martinez, that's exactly what we are hearing for this one. And we are hearing that Barcelona and him have agreed personal terms. We know that there's still some moving pieces that need to happen, but what are the details and how likely is this to become a done deal?
Yeah, I think before the whole break for coronavirus and all of that happened, Barcelona were very, very confident that this deal would get done. Talks have been sort of going on for a long time, and the personal terms have been agreed with Lautaro despite the coronavirus effects and stuff and what Barca need to do there. They have reached an agreement with the player and his agent, a verbal agreement, which would obviously have to be sort of rubber stamped once they could reach an agreement with Inter. But the major problem is reaching the agreement with Inter, with the financial problems that they have now, with how much Inter are demanding, and rightly so, because their player with the contract to run. He's young, he's had a good season. So that's the big problem for Barca, because they don't have the money at the moment. Is the simple reason, and they're looking to sell players to raise money so that they can strengthen elsewhere, because otherwise they're not going to be able to sign players. As we saw last week, the way they did the Pjanic deal was sort of a swap deal, but with cash involved to balance the accounts as well. So they're going to have to be creative to get this Lautaro deal over the line as well.
And speaking creative, maybe that's where a certain Philippe Coutinhos comes into play. We're seeing his name linked in as well to be mixed in. We know that he is in need of another home. He's been linked to the move back to Liverpool, but what kind of part does he play in this and the potential of it actually happening?
Yeah, so Coutinho plays a huge role in Barcelona's transfer activity this summer, because he's the one player they're looking at thinking, this is a guy who is still at the top level, still is at a good age, still has some sort of resale value, even though they acknowledge it's going to be absolutely nowhere near the 160 million euros they paid for him in 2018. They initially hoped with Inter that maybe Inter would accept some sort of player exchange plus cash deal. They've offered a lot of players. Inter were interested maybe in Arturo Vidal, but he's obviously 33 now, and there's sort of reluctance from them to include him in any deal. Players like Rakitic, Semedo have been offered as well, and haven't been to Inter's taste for whatever reason. So it's looking more and more like cash. So Barca are going to have to look to sell elsewhere, and Coutinho on loan at Bayern is the player they're going to look to move on. The problem is no one seems to have the cash to buy him at the moment. His agent has obviously spoken about a desire to return to England. He's obviously done so well in the Premier League before. And there's been tentative interest from clubs to hear how much it would cost, how much a deal would be worth. And there's been no concrete bid. So there is that concern there for Barca that maybe no one will be prepared to pay what they want for Coutinho. And they're looking at, 70, 80 million. And it may even have to be less in the end. And then it's a decision of how much are they prepared to lose on what they paid for him. And the other option is what they've done with Bayern is a loan, where a club pays for the loan and takes on his wages. But that obviously doesn't solve the problem of how they fund a move for Lautaro this summer.
And then if and when probably that Lautaro does become a Barcelona player, what does that mean for everyone else in this squad? I'm not trying to retire anyone, Luis Suarez, but who kind of has to sleep with one eye open, or how do you see him fitting in?
Yeah, the idea is, and the club have been quite open with this idea that Lautaro, and well, for a few years now, they've been trying to sign this long-term successor to Suarez. They signed Paco Alcácer at first to come in, not as his successor, but as backup. And obviously with the prominence of Suarez at the time, it never happened for Alcácer. It's happened with other strikers as well. And Griezmann, to an extent, has been pushed out wide and stuff. But they've always wanted a number 9 and someone who can play that role. And even though Lautaro doesn't necessarily play that at Inter with Lukaku, who plays as part of the front two or different roles, they see him as the person with those Suarez-like attributes who can come in and replace Suarez in the long term. And Suarez himself has said several times, he's encouraged the club. He said, look, I'm 33 now, go out and find a number 9. But what Suarez says and then how he behaves when he's left on the bench or when he's taken off is a completely different thing, which is natural with most players. But we see him get angry when he doesn't come off. Quique Setien has spoken this week and regularly since the league resumed about this hierarchy that there is among the players, and there's certain players that he just has to leave on. And Suarez and Messi are sort of two of those players who he's prominently talking about without naming. So it's going to be difficult at first, perhaps, to find a way to fit Lautaro and Suarez in the team, unless Suarez does, of course, sort of accept to slowly be phased out and accept that comes with age.
And then finally, you kind of hinted at exactly what and how Barcelona will probably be able to afford whatever business they want to do in the transfer window. This season, we've seen them have more troubles than we're used to seeing, you know, whether it's Messi not being happy there and, you know, Griezmann, of course, being settled and then unsettled and whatnot. So you'd imagine that they'd want to bulk up their squad and have, you know, more replacements, so to speak, or a deeper squad. So where do you see them needing to kind of bulk up, or where should they be doing business in this transfer window?
Yeah, they need to do a lot to change the team to sort of, you know, this season's been very stale. There've been lots of weaknesses. It's an aging squad and they need to do a lot. But I think the concern is A, there's a lack of money. And B, the money that they have had in recent years has not been well spent. So there's no reason for them to go, well, we're going to keep chucking 100 million at this player or that player, when in recent weeks and this season we've seen good contributions from some of the younger players, from Ricky Puig in midfield in recent weeks and throughout the season from Ansu Fati. And we're seeing that, you know, these players that come through the academy can come in, they can perform, they know the way Barca play, and they've done much better really than some of the big signings have done. So I think that what they need to do is target certain areas. Obviously, Lautaro is someone they've massively targeted for several months now. Pjanic is coming in midfield. They can balance him with what they've got. They perhaps need another centre-back. They could be strengthening the full-back positions, especially at right-back if Semedo leaves. And Jordi Alba is obviously the only option at left-back if Junior leaves. So there's weaknesses there and there's a lot to be done. But I think maybe it's time for Barca to maybe take sort of advantage of this situation where they haven't got any money. Like we saw with Chelsea, even though it was a different situation and they were forced to, you know, sort of turn to playing these guys that maybe they would have sent on loan otherwise, these young players. And they've sort of seen the rewards with Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham and players like that this season. And maybe we could see the same from Barca, where they use this situation to get back to their roots, which we saw. I mean, if we look at obviously everyone knows that the success they had under Guardiola and in the following years, so much of that was built on players that had come through the academy. So I think it's something that they're thinking about and something they should maybe target, but we're definitely going to see them moving in creative ways in the transfer market as well, because they just can't help themselves.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.